You're listening to the UKC Hunting Ops Podcast, celebrating hunting dog heritage, competition, and community. United Kennel Club has been the hunting dog sports home for coonhounds, beagles, retrievers, pointers, cur, feist, and more for over 125 years.
I'm Domenick Moyo, and I have the pleasure of being here at the National Bird Dog Museum in Grand Junction, Tennessee. And I'm joined with Greg Blair. Greg Blair is a pretty prolific walking trial guy and really active in that aspect of the field trial world when it comes to American field. And, you know, it's a pretty unique world, the
Right.
walking trial aspect of things. And, you know, it seems like that's kind of like the place that a lot of people get their
Sure.
start in American field.
Right.
Could you kind of give us a little bit of an overview of kind of your experience in walking trials
Yep.
and how people can get involved in them?
Sure, most definitely. And you're correct in stating that the field trial world might seem a little big to people, but the walking, I'll call it game, the walking field trial segment is a place where people can get their feet wet. Walking field trial is exactly what it says. You have two handlers that are walking, just like you're hunting. So you don't need a horse. You don't need a big trailer. You don't need a $70,000 truck. You can come and enter a walking field trial, you know, puppy stakes, derby stakes, or broke dog, shooting dog stakes. But the handlers are all walking. The judges might be on horseback, and the gallery might be on horseback, and the scouts can be on horseback. But you as a competitor and your dog are walking. So that's where it kind of sets itself apart from the regular quote-unquote field trials that you might hear of. If it's a walking field trial, the handlers are walking. Now there's 3 or 4 segments that if you look at the UKC American Field website and you look at an ad, it might not specifically say walking field trial, but if it's a cover dog, wild bird trial, if it's a U.S. complete, a national bird hunters, or an American bird hunters, those are all walking field trial associations. Some might offer a horseback now and then, but you can tell if it's U.S. Complete, NBHA, or Cover Dog, or ABHA, those are going to be walking field trials. So, and they're very open, welcoming to new people. Come, walk in the gallery, see what it's like. But that, you're right, that's usually a good step to get people involved.
Sure. Tell me a little bit about the difference of what you might see out of a walking trial dog versus, you know, horseback dog. Is there really a difference in the way that the dogs are running, or are they still the same dog?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a lot of gray area, because a good walking field trial dog on the top circuit of the NBHA or the U.S. Complete will run edges, will, you know, stretch their legs when they adapt to the cover that they're given. And yeah, maybe the top 10, 15, 20% of those could run an amateur horseback stake. But typically your dogs are going to be, now I'm going to say typically because I'm in this game, a little bit more broke, over the hill broke, because you can't get there like you can get there on a horse. You know, if you got a good running dog that likes to hit the edges and is honest on their game, you can win at a walking field trial. So you have everything from you know, it's hard for some people to do distances, but you'll have 100, 200, 300-yard dogs. But if they don't adapt to the cover and they just run off, they're not a good walking dog. They need to handle with you. They need to come and go with you, probably a little bit more than the horseback dogs do. Now, the cover dogs, obviously, you're in the woods with a bell. You want to hear that bell. You want them to be at bell range. You don't want them running off to where you can't hear the bell. So typically you don't want to see them right in front of you, but you also don't want to run out of the country either. Sure. So a good big running walking dog that's honest on their game and handles with the handler, that doesn't take a lot of scouting. You know, you don't, if it takes a lot of scouting, you probably got a renegade, or you got one that likes to run big, and that's a horseback type dog.
Okay. So if I'm just average Joe hunter, right,
Mhm.
and I've got a pointer and I like to walk the North Carolina sandhills with my dog
Sure.
and find some quail here or there, how do I know if my dog could be competitive in a walking stakes trial?
I guess the best way to know is to go watch one of them. And like I said, a lot of them, especially maybe at Hoffman or in the Carolinas, there's a lot of them that have dog wagons that you can ride in the gallery, or you can walk in the gallery. You don't need a horse. So I would say go watch, see what the people are competing with. And I'm going to probably say 7, 8, 9 times out of 10, you've probably got a good walking dog. I mean, you can compete in different parts of the country with almost any type of walking dog. But I would say go check one out, and you can do that by the field trial schedules or ads are on the UKC website under the American Field Calendar. And again, if you see it's a U.S. Complete, NBHA, a cover dog, or an ABHA trial, typically they're going to be walking. And if you can find one in your area, I believe the search menu has area. You can say, hey, I'm looking for Illinois, and pull up the ads that are in that area. Go watch. Introduce yourself to the chairperson. Call ahead. Tell them you're coming. They will more than definitely roll out the red carpet. Actually might find you a horse if you want to ride. But you can walk in the gallery.
Yeah. It's funny saying, just go out there and watch it, because we're here for the Hall of Fame inductions. And one of our inductees, Larry Smith, he's no longer with us, but his wife Linda was speaking on his behalf and mentioned how their whole first year they rode trial to trial without a single dog.
Right.
They were just soaking in as much information as possible. And depending where people are located, trials are pretty prolific in the country right now, especially the walking trials.
Yeah.
And so they might have a lot of opportunity to go out and shadow.
Yeah, and there's a lot of shadowing that can be done. A lot of the other ways people get involved in the walking game is that when they buy their puppy or their dog, they get it from a trainer, or the trainer might know a handler on the circuit, and by word of mouth, they'll say, hey, can I come and watch? Can I plant birds for you? Can I catch birds for you? Can I just ride in the truck? So talking to trainers or talking to amateur competitors, you'll be able to see some good trials.
It's funny you mention that, because like I'm a retriever guy, right? I'm a duck dog guy, but when I first got my my first retriever, I didn't really know what I was doing at all, and I did just that. I found, who's the local retriever trainer. Anyone can find a retriever trainer within an hour of them. And so I found the local guy, and I said, hey, I'll come out and throw birds for you. Yep. Just, can I throw my dog on your setup? Can I get the chance to run my dog? Can I watch how you run your dogs? Right. Yep. And I mean, they're welcoming in the retriever game the same that they are in the bird dog game. Yeah. There's no one will ever turn down free help.
No.
But tell me a little bit about your personal experience. How did you get into the walking game?
I got into the walking game because I knew I wanted to buy a pointer. I was at a sports show. Long story short, I bought a short hair. That breeder was a board member of the Wisconsin NASTRA, so I got into shoot to retrieve. And then from there, my current trainer now, Tom Waits, said, hey, come and, judge a puppy stake for me or judge a derby stake for me. So I got involved by volunteering my time, and he eventually got a couple dogs for me. And long story short, I've been a board member since 2012. I mean, I jumped in with 2 feet. I'm a competitive guy as it is. So to continue my hunting season with shoot to retrieve or field trialing, but I got in because I wanted to hunt, and my breeder was a member of Shoot to Retrieve, and then my trainer was in American Field. Okay. So it's a long journey. You look back and go, wow, I got here because of one short hair that I bought at a sports show.
Yeah. I mean, I'm where I'm at right now because of a poodle I got because of my wife's allergies.
There you go.
And just kind of hung on for the ride.
Sure.
So, you mentioned Shoot to Retrieve a little bit as well. That's another one of the organizations that UKC recognizes the titles on, and that's a slightly different game. Correct. But it's also still another good game for Joe Hunter to get involved with.
It is,
and maybe even I know one of the biggest issues with really anything with dogs these days is grounds.
Correct.
And it might be a little bit difficult to get into the walking game some because you might not have big enough grounds to train on. But, shoot to retrieve is a little bit different.
Right. Yep.
So tell us a little bit about shoot to retrieve.
Well, shoot to retrieve is kind of what the word says. It's a field trial that is scored, and you run with. I say run. You walk with your brace mate and his dog or her dog on a 40-acre field. And every brace, they plant 5 birds. So you're out there for 30 minutes. It's not run and gun. So the quicker you get your birds, you're not done. You stay out there for 30 minutes, but you want to find as many birds as possible. And those dogs in shoot to retrieve only need to be steady to flush. So they do not need to be steady to wing and shot and fall. So steady to flush, shoot the bird, retrieve it. You get scored. You get scored on backing. You get scored on your fines. You get scored on retrieving, ground coverage, and obedience. And they run 16 braces, 32 dogs a day, and the top 3 dogs get a placement. So it's actually, that's how I got started. I love the competitive nature of that. You get to shoot birds. Your dogs do not need to be finished. Again, you can take them steady to wing. So it's a different quote-unquote game. But it's a lot of fun, and they're in 32 regions across the country. So if you go to, I think it's nastra.org, NSTRA, you'll be able to find a region, a president, a club. You can sit in your lawn chair and watch the 40-acre field and actually watch it going on. So it's not like field trials where it's on a course that might go through the woods or whatever. So shoot to retrieve is a great place for people, a walking person, to get involved.
Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest things to really drive home is the fact that if you've got a pointer and you like to bird hunt, there's a lot of different venues for you. And,
I agree.
And, each one of them is fun for their own reason. Each one of them comes with its own nuances or its own challenges. Mm-hmm. But there's so much similarity, too, between them that you have this osmosis and this transfer of competitors as well. And so, bird season's only so long.
Right.
And far too many people like to let their dog sit until 2 weeks before season, and then they go out there and they realize that they have to fix everything.
Or get them back in shape.
Yep. And so I think the biggest message is if you're out there listening to this podcast and you've got a bird dog, look into some of these organizations because you can find a whole new community, new friends, and a new way to keep your dog in shape, give you something to strive for during the off season, and helps make your bird season that much more productive when you're not spending the whole first third of it retraining your dog.
Yeah, it makes everything more enjoyable the more time you can put a dog on the ground.
Sure.
Yep. So,
well, Greg, I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me, and I always enjoy coming here to the Bird Dog Museum.
It is, isn't it? I see something new every time, and I'll just say a lot of stuff that I threw on there. All these organizations have social media pages, so if it's NASTRA, NBHA, US Complete, jump on Instagram or Facebook and just search them out. They're there. Yeah. They're open to everybody.
Well, while we're here, what's your favorite part of this museum?
I'm a pointer setter guy, so I like to go back and look at all the past national champions, or people that we read about, and actually see their faces and their dogs. I mean, like, well, I didn't think that was how that dog looked or whatever. But no, even the retriever side that's totally Greek to me. But it's just so cool to see dogs and people that we just would never have the chance to meet.
Sure.
We get to see them here.
Such a unique archive.
Yep, I agree.
I think my 2 favorite things in this whole museum is that taxidermy scene of that setter on point with a covey of quail that are starting to fly and still holding. Yeah. That is neat.
That is cool. What are the dioramas or something when the kids make them in school? I mean, for those who aren't here, what is it? It's probably 10 feet wide by 6-7 feet tall, all in glass with a setter on point with the quail fly. That is.
And they've got articles around about that setter.
Correct.
Like you can actually see a picture of that setter from back in the day, and that's like 1800s, 1890, I think.
It's very cool.
And my second favorite thing is the picture of King Buck.
Yeah.
King Buck, the retriever
right.
for those of you who might not know, it's kind of deep-rooted in duck hunting lore. You buy your duck stamp every year, and it's got a new artist and a new painting or a new picture featured. Well, King Buck's portrait that hangs on that hall was the first duck stamp to feature something other than a duck as the main subject.
Well, that's pretty cool.
And I think it was 1955, I think, is when that stamp came out.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of the retriever guys, they have like King Buck portraits with the frame stamp as well
on it. Yeah.
on their walls. And so that's just neat to see that.
The amount of history is crazy, and I'll just leave you with this. What Mr. Bernie Mathis said today is last year was the 150th anniversary of the All-Age National Championship, and the first one was in West End. But that precedes, what did he say, the Kentucky Derby and the start of Major League Baseball. Yeah. So that's been around bird trialing and the National All-Age Championship longer than that. Yeah. I know there's one club on the West Coast that's either that old or – so this has so much history that – you can't even, this place can't even hold it all.
No.
It's crazy.
No, but that's why we come together in these big groups to share these different stories and hear stuff like that.
Exactly.
Well, Greg, I appreciate you taking the time.
No, I'm glad you asked. This was great.
Hey, Alan, I don't know if you've been messing around with this new Houndsman Advantage app at all, but I've been playing with it some, and it has some really cool features on it. One, it has the interactive scorecard view where you can assign strike and tree points at the touch of a button, and it automatically totals your scores after each set of points are scored and valued.
Yeah, no, I like it as well. Some of the features that I like is that you can access the rules and that it comes with a search function to easily find any specific rule. Also like that there's a place for your dog's registration numbers, and you can store pictures of your easy entry cards. I like that you can track two dogs' performances when out pleasure hunting. You'll find some analytics on your dogs. You can record their accuracy, win percentages, and a whole lot of things like that.
No more lying here on this app. The last thing about the scorecard I'll talk about is it has the summary view as well, where you can see the total points you have and the pending points that you have, along with tree timers for each dog. So it's going to come in handy for judges as well. So check it all out on the new Houndsman Advantage app.
I'm joined with Sean Derrig. Sean Derrig is the owner of one of the inductees in this year's class of Hall of Fame dogs. He owned, trained, and bred Erin's Hidden Shamrock, call name Jack, and that's a really prolific setter that got inducted this year. Tell me a little bit about Jack.
Well, Jack, Dominic, I've been very fortunate. I've had a breeding program for pointers. Two dogs in the Hall of Fame, Southern Justice and Bad River. And I wanted to develop a great setter in the win record and in the production record. And I bred to pretty much every male setter that was out there, and never found the one that could compete with the pointer at his age in the heat, all kinds of conditions. I'm not one to make exception. Some people would say, "Oh, they need a year and this and that." I never believed in that. And I bred a female I had, and got Jack. Actually, there was 3 champions in that litter, but Jack was the one. I just knew from day one he was the one. He was about 7-8 months old and running way too much. And I had a good friend, Jimmy White, who guided on a preserve down in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So Jimmy had experience with setters and pointers over the years. And I asked Jimmy if he'd take him and hunt him, just get him into birds. And he did. And he brought him back to me at the All-American Derby Championship. And he said, if you can break him, he'll make a good one. And we broke him, and you just knew from day one he was just a special dog. Take the heat. His heat tolerance was exceptionally well, exceptionally good. The drive he had for game and everything. He was he ended up being a one-man dog. I didn't see that as a young dog, but he was a one-man dog, and that sometimes that was detrimental to him. But then we started breeding them, and we started getting great pups. The most recent, Erin's Legacy, just got runner-up in the Continental Derby. I sold the dog to Mike Sweet about a month or so ago, and then went to the first field trial with him, won that, and then went straight to the Continental and got runner-up, only to another Erin's dog, Pointer, that I had sold, and Erin's Three Amigos. So I don't know of any other setter ever having runner-up in the Continental Derby, but Jack, his dad, got runner-up in the Continental itself, which I consider one of the premier field trials today.
Okay. And something I've noticed a lot with at least my time here at American Field is that the Hall of Fame induction, as far as dogs go, typically goes to a pointer, right?
Yes.
You mentioned Jack's heat tolerance and his ability to run, but were there any other attributes about him that truly set him apart to be a Hall of Fame dog as a setter?
Well, he was a great competitor. He could run in the heat. He could run in the wind. He could run in the prairies. He plays from the prairies all the way to the deep south. It takes a very unique dog to run a prairie all-age race and then go south and win in the Continental and the Piney Woods. Dog has to adapt, and you can only do so much preparing for that. They have got to be the caliber dog that can adapt. Some dogs only win in one arena. He won in all arenas, and phenomenal bird dog, magnificent looking dog on the ground, but he had a brain. And today with the setters, there's not a really, really good gene pool out there to pick from. So that's where his production record comes in. It's so important. You can have a great dog, and I've had great pointers, but they didn't produce. His production record will far exceed his win record when it's all said and done. Like I say, that just got runner-up at the Continental Derby with Legacy. And if I was still competing, I retired about 4 or 5 years ago, just going up and down the road. But if I was still competing, I would have never sold Legacy. He's another Shamrock. Another son of his, Wild Atlantic Way, just won the All-Age Invitational. Only the second setter in history to win the All-Age Invitational. Unfortunately, he broke his tail competing in the Georgia All-Age Championship, so he's out for the national now. He's on the mend.
Okay. Well, hopefully he heals quickly. Something you had mentioned during your acceptance is how you set a pretty lofty goal for yourself about wanting to be the only person that bred and trained a pointer and a setter both in the Hall of Fame. Tell me a little bit about where that goal came from.
Well, I wanted to produce great dogs. It's the winning is just one aspect of this. My real passion is breeding and developing that superior animal. That I call it the 1%. And I've been very fortunate. Of course, the gene pool in the pointer is a lot broader. So it was easier. We had Southern Justice. I mean, I could go on and on naming, but the setter, to my knowledge, nobody has ever bred, raised, trained, and developed a pointer and a setter and make it the Hall of Fame. And that was my goal, to develop a great setter that could produce and contribute to the setter world for years to come. And if you look at just about any pedigree that's out there today, Shamrock or Prometheus is in there somewhere. And Prometheus is the legitimate brother that John Mattice, I sold to John Mattice, and they done quite a bit of winning with him. But that's his biggest contribution, and putting that 1% back on the ground. And I've done that. I only have one setter female that I breed, but we're already produced numerous championships with her.
Yeah, I mean, Jack's production record is, I mean, it's pretty significant too. The numbers are, almost 400 champions
and that's
runner-up.
and that's what, I competed as an amateur. That's the other aspect of it. I'm the only amateur probably that ever do that. To breed both and get both in the Hall of Fame. But again, my passion is really breeding, and of course you have to compete to see how good your breeding program is. But even today, like I'm in Georgia, spend the winter in Georgia. I'm working 18 dogs right now that I'm breaking for next year, and even though I'm not field trialing, I still, we have another young setter coming along right now that I just had a break, and we're hoping he'll get into the winning circle.
Okay. How does training Shamrock affect your training with some of these other dogs? I know you mentioned a lot of people want to make exceptions or try to give the dogs extra years just because it's a breed, or they try to train it in a breed specific way, and so you don't necessarily subscribe to that thought process.
Absolutely don't subscribe to it whatsoever. I think great dogs are born, and if you have the ability to recognize it, and I recognize it in 6-month-old pups sometimes. And when you have the ability to recognize that, there's no reason to make an exception or wait or this or that. A good setter is actually will beat a pointer of his age. Got a little more drive, a little more desire. The good ones, and like I say, the good ones are born. We don't. We break some dogs, but we develop the real good ones. That's the mistake people make. We broke Jack at a very young age. I'm breaking one of his sons right now, and he's 9 months old. But he's pointing birds and holding them. He's ready to break. So, I never fell into that given time.
Yeah, in the retriever world, people often will bring up the point of you train the dog in front of you. And so I think oftentimes, even in the retriever world, you got Boykins, you got Labs, you got Goldens, you got Chessies. And sometimes people can fall into that same thought process of, oh, well, I need to approach this Golden different than I would a Lab. And truthfully, what you should be thinking is, I need to approach this dog in a way that gets the most out of this dog and whatever that is. And I think sometimes people get lost in that, especially dog trainers who see big volumes, like even you as an amateur, you see a lot of dogs, and some trainers who have that same volume, they get stuck in doing a routine, and if a dog doesn't fit into the program, then the dog might not blossom into all of that it can be and achieve its full potential.
Exactly. If you're breaking 10 dogs, you better be willing to adopt and change. I mean, people watch me working, and I'll do one thing one way, and then I'll do something the other way, and I can't explain it. I can see it before it happens, but I couldn't tell you. I'll tell you 10 seconds before it's going to happen. But my son Sean Patrick works with me quite a bit, and he actually broke out several of these dogs this winter, and with me, and I'd sit there and watch him, and he'd do something. I'd get up and I'd do. He said, Dad, why do you do that? And I just said to him, I can't explain it, but it's just something you see. It's instinct, and I've been very fortunate to have good instinct around animals. I mean, I train horses, I train dogs, I'm into the falconry now and all that. So I love the challenge of training animals, but I tell everybody that the good ones are born. We don't make them. We develop them. The good ones are born. And a setter with right breeding, physically the right animal with the good leg, good tail set, and a good mind, they're every bit, if not better than a pointer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you talking about, it's hard to explain. I spent some time developing, green detection dogs and doing a little bit of field trial lab work on test labs. And my mentor during that time had told me, he was like, you understand the science of dog training. You understand stepwise what the next thing should be. He was like, the difference between a good dog trainer and a great one is someone who also understands the art of dog training. Picasso is not going to tell you why he painted this one color here. That's just what was needed, and that's what his instinct told him. And it's always neat to kind of see the art of dog training come out in those situations.
Yeah, that's a great comparison. You know, Picasso, I'm sure, done things, and he looked back at himself and said, I'm not sure why I done that. And I find that myself a lot of times. Like I'll do something. Here about a month ago, I was having a little trouble with a dog, and that boy bothered me all night, and I woke up in the morning and made myself a little contraption with a little spike at the end of it, and that dog was, by the end of the day, I had him holding his birds, and I showed it to a friend of mine, and he looked at it. He said, "How can something so simple be so good, and nobody ever thought of it?" And it's just things like that. I don't know why I do things half the time, but you just see it. I mean, if you have a love for the dogs, a love for the sport, a love for what you're doing, it's you do. I think about it even today. That's all I think about. I mean, I'm up here, very honored to be here, but I can't wait to get back and start working dogs again. You know, it's addictive. Like I say, I'm very fortunate. I retired from going up and down the road a couple of years ago. Had a great career. Wouldn't trade a minute of it. But now I'm, I get up in the morning. I'm working dogs, working horses, and training, working the hawks, and kind of doing what I want. But it's looking. I call it working the 1%.
I always find it neat to hear you talk about the falconry thing, and I'd be mistaken if I didn't take this opportunity where we're already sitting here in front of microphones to hear a little bit about how you work falcons alongside your pointers.
Well, so I started off with a red tail, and quickly had a great time with it. Then I got a goshawk. And then I ended up capturing a couple of Cooper hawks. So I had a Cooper hawk this year that I caught, I want to say in August. And by the end of September, I had one pointer specifically trained to work with him. And it's actually Sean's dog, and Chief. And so my little jag terrier, I taught him to heel the horse. We'd ride along out there, pointer would point, the little jag, it'd flush the birds, the hawk could chase and catch, and if I had to go across the road into private property, I could leave the horse, the dog, and the pointer. Nobody would move till I came back. And again, that's another challenge that I love doing. I have a goshawk that works from the truck, works from the four-wheeler, works from the horse. I can hunt all day off horseback with her, and it's just a challenge that I really love doing.
Yeah. That's something, if you have a picture of it, I'd love to see where you're walking with a horse, a Jack Russell Terrier, a hawk, and a pointer.
I'll show you on my phone. It's so neat, and I'll show you some videos of it, and the quail flushing and the hawk pursuing, and the neat thing is I had some people with me about a month ago, and the quail flew across the road, and so we had to cross two fences. So I left the dog there, and I left the horse there, and the horse ground tied. The dog sat there, and they came back and they said, I think the dog's a two-time champion. He's Erin Southern Comfort, and they said, "How did you teach him?" And I said, "I got tired tying him up." So I thought, I just taught him, and he will not. I mean, we were gone probably 40 minutes by the time we found the hawk and done caught the bird and everything, and they just sat there the whole time. I mean, it's just a challenge.
Yeah,
it is. It's a passion.
Yeah, obedience is always fun to train on dogs. No, I appreciate you taking the time. Congratulations again on your induction.
My pleasure.
And,
yeah.
Man, it's fun to hear all the stories here. There's so much history and so many unique perspectives.
A lot of history in this building, a lot of history in the sport. I'm very fortunate that 30 years I've done it. I've met some unbelievable people over the years. Now it's time to give back to the sport. So
absolutely. Well, thank you again, Sean. I enjoyed it.
Thanks, Domenick.
Alan, you've been feeding Eukanuba dog feed for a while now. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I have, and I've really been able to put my beagles to the test. mainly running snowshoe hare up north where they run the hardest, where I put 15, 20, 25 miles on them easily in a day. And I've found that the premium performance sport has really paid dividends. Mainly, I noticed their stamina.
Yeah, same feed that I've been feeding. I think my dog looks good on it. He's really feeling good, and less kennel cleanup for me, so I highly recommend it as well.
UKC, the official performance dog nutrition partner of UKC.
I'm joined here with Linda and Carrie Smith. They were here to celebrate Larry Smith's induction to the Hall of Fame today. And Linda often talks about the Life with Larry stories. She shared some with us in the auditorium a little bit ago, but he had such a busy field trial life and did so many different things. When I say, the two words Larry and field trialing, what comes to mind?
That was probably what our marriage was based on. Along with family and God, it was that sport doing together. So from running dogs to hosting field trials to attaboys and to raising puppies and having dogs, that was our life.
Yeah.
Being a giver and a teacher to not only field trialing, but just life.
Sure. You guys have some really well-known grounds out there. And in talking and preparing for the Hall of Fame inductions, you had mentioned to me about how you guys pulled aspects of some of your favorite field trial courses and applied them to those grounds. Could you give some specifics on what are some things that you pulled and where they came from?
I would say anything with Dad came off of a napkin first.
Well, we would go places, he would draw things that he saw across the nation. So, for example, where we have a series of 16 corrals with a walkway and a roof was an old barn, and all I could see was an old barn, and he could see if we raised that barn, what could we put there. So putting nice horse corrals, 4-car horse corrals with mangers and a walkway and a place where you can put hay was just one example of seeing how to make it a field trial ground.
Okay.
I remember coming to a field trial when I was younger, and any trial he's like, jot that down. I like that. And there was just different specific things just about even where hay went. He liked that aspect where hay was or wherever. He just took little bits and pieces, but he drew it out.
It kind of sounds like someone building their dream house. You go to a tour of homes and you're like, ooh, I really love that pot filler over there by the stove, or ooh, I love the way that they designed the bathroom or this closet or this bedroom, and you kind of note it and you turn around and you build this thing that is just perfect. It's everything you wanted it to be. And hearing you talk about some of the things around y'all's grounds at your farm, that's kind of what it reminds me of, is someone who really
Exactly.
enveloped themselves in a world in order to pull all the best parts out of it and put it in one place.
He would lay out the courses and the crossings, and then he would also consider where the scout could go. So he would create cut-throughs and things where a scout could do and handle a dog and help make the dog successful. So those were little innuendos that were built in that I could provide.
Okay. That's kind of neat to hear, like almost like little shortcuts for the scouts and everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if somebody wasn't pointed out those little shortcuts, how quickly do you think they would even know that they were there?
They would go there to do their job and then realize that it was already built.
Okay.
And then also he wasn't afraid of saying, "Hey, scouts," and share the knowledge too. He didn't have to win, but he wanted everybody to know how to make themselves win. Let the dog do the winning, and let's say, okay, if you want to catch your dog, he would advise a scout, there is a cut through built in. So
Okay.
yeah,
that's neat. What are some other aspects, or is there as far as the course design and flow, is there anything else that he saw at a certain trial and he said, ooh, that's going on one of my courses?
Oh, I would think enough variety to see some big long casts, but also some short handling
Sure.
some turns that make you handle your dog, but also big stretches. But the other thing was imperative to have a lot of birds. So we raised quail for quite a while, and then found out that
You wanted to give the dogs a fair chance.
yeah, and he wanted to have a trial there. People could, show their dogs. It's bird dogs. So if you don't have birds on a course, then you're, and that's a challenge with bird populations diminishing. So we raised quail and we did that for several years, and then we purchased them and donated them because we wanted it to be a bird trial, not just a running dog trial.
Oh, that's awesome. What would something be that our listeners who might not even be in the American field world, what would something be that you would want them to know about Larry?
Where do you start?
I would say integrity is the meaning. It's not about winning, it's about being the best you can be and helping others. So it's not it just can't be all about you.
He would go straight up to a competitor and ask them if they needed help. It wouldn't matter win or loss. He was there to support and just for the sport, no matter what it meant.
Yeah, that's what a role model and what a person deserving of the Hall of Fame that is.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you guys taking time. I don't want to hold you guys up for too much longer, but congratulations again on Larry's induction, and his portrait is going to be in good company here in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, thank you, Domenick. Thank you for your time, too.
Absolutely. It's my
Appreciate it.
pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the UKC Hunting Ops Podcast. Be sure to give us a follow so you don't miss any of our new episodes or content.